It wasn't the gunshot that shook Desert Pines. It was the piercing scream of a 12-year-old girl, clutching the bullet-riddled body of a 240-pound ram dressed in a pink tutu and a glittery collar engraved with Sheriff's Best Pal. The culprits, a group of half-drunk buddies of the HOA president, didn't see that part. They were too busy stumbling through the woods behind Saguaro Street, tossing beer cans into the bushes as if that would erase their mistake. Desert Pines was the kind of place where a slightly overgrown lawn could earn you a fine, and a nosy neighbor with binoculars could land you on a watch list for leaving your trash bin out too long. Quiet, orderly, suffocatingly sound till the night Max, the ram, met his end. Max wasn't just a pet. He was a local legend, a TikTok star, an emotional support animal, a parade mascot, and the cherished companion of Emily Harper, daughter of Sheriff Tom Harper. Emily's bond with Max ran deeper than most human friendships. He'd been her rock through her mother's passing, schoolyard bullies, and even a science fair disaster involving a volcano that spewed manure. When she found him bleeding out by the neighborhood fountain, next to a half-eaten bag of chips, her world shattered. Rewind 24 hours. The neighborhood was still intact, and HOA President Dan Mitchell was hosting one of his infamous guys' nights in his garagiest shrine to tacky taxidermy and neon beer signs. His crew included Ron from Lot 12, who swore Wi-Fi caused migraines, Greg, a dubious essential oil salesman, and Tim, who wore star-spangled sandals year-round and once threatened to sue a kid for skateboarding too loudly. They were bored, buzzed, and armed with Dan's new .22 rifle. When Ron spotted something big with horns in the park, their beer-soaked brains decided it was a wild ram, maybe rabbit. "Let's hunt," Greg slurred. And out they went, laughing, posing with the rifle, oblivious to the storm they were about to unleash. Emily heard the shot. She always heard everything. Max had a custom stable behind their house, complete with a disco ball and premium hay. When he didn't show up for his nightly peanut butter apple treat, panic set in. Barefoot, flashlight in hand, she ran through the gravel, calling his name. Then she saw him crumpled by the HOA sign, blood soaking the dirt, eyes frozen in confusion. Her scream woke the neighborhood. Lights flicked on, dogs barked, and a wind chime crashed somewhere down the street. Sheriff Tom arrived minutes later, following his daughter's cries. He found Emily kneeling in the dirt, blood-streaked and trembling with rage. For a moment, the toughest lawman in the county felt the ground shift beneath him. "Who did this?" Emily demanded, her voice sharp as broken glass. Tom didn't know, but he had a hunch. Earlier that evening, Dan had texted him a photo of his new rifle with the caption, "Ready to tackle the neighborhood critter problem." Tom had chuckled then. Now, he wanted to smash his phone. At Dan's house, chaos reigned. Ron had bolted, Greg was sobbing in the bushes, and Tim was frantically Googling, "Can you go to jail for shooting a goat?" Dan, pouring whiskey into a cereal bowl, barked, "We say it was self-defense. A feral ram on a rampage." Greg whimpered, "It was wearing a tutu." Dan snapped, "Then we say it was a crazed drag goat. No one knows it was us." But someone did know. Across the street, Mrs. Lorraine, the HOA secretary and a surveillance hobbyist, had filmed the whole thing through her telescope. Her YouTube channel, Desert Watch, hadn't posted in months, but now she had a blockbuster. By sunrise, Desert Pines was on edge. The HOA issued a flimsy statement blaming coyotes. Dan dropped a fruit basket on Emily's porch, which she smashed with a shovel. Sheriff Tom opened a quiet investigation, but everyone knew it wouldn't stay quiet. Pinned to his office board was a Polaroid of Max in a party hat, licking Emily's cheek, with the words scrawled beside it, "They killed the wrong ram." Emily didn't cry at Max's funeral. She stood like stone, her hand on Rusty, Max's twin, who'd been mysteriously found in Dan's backyard the day before. Grief had burned away, replaced by a cold, calculated fury. She wasn't just mourning, she was planning. Sheriff Tom, torn between duty and fatherhood, saw the fire in her eyes, the same look his late wife had when wronged. Dan, meanwhile, called an emergency HOA meeting under a banner reading, "Unity over Chaos." His buddies sat around a folding table, pretending to take notes, while Mrs. Lorraine filmed with a GoPro, streaming live. Dan's speech about community harmony fell flat. Ron sipped from a thermos labeled, "Not booze," and Greg looked haunted after seeing himself in Mrs. Lorraine's viral video, Midnight Ram Slayers. Emily struck first. She unleashed 5 goats Max Jr. 1 through 5 onto Dan's lawn, dressed in tiny sheriff vests and sunglasses, devouring his prized roses. As Dan screamed, Emily sipped a slushie, watching Rusty relieve himself on a shrub. This was just a distraction. Her real plan unfolded in the shadows. Lawns died overnight. Sprinklers sprayed hot sauce. The community fountain turned purple with glitter. HOA signs were swapped with mocking versions. Pride in perfection became hide your deceptions. Dan retaliated with a $600 fine for goat vandalism, which Emily paid with a check from her grandma, a former rodeo star, with for Max in the memo. The neighborhood split Team HOA versus Team Max. Kids at school wore black for Ram Remembrance Week, and a mural of Max with angel wings appeared on the gym wall. Dan, paranoid, hired a shady landscaper named Vince, who installed motion sensors and a scarecrow with a Guns Forever sign. At night, Dan patrolled in a bathrobe, muttering about goat invasions. His wife moved out, citing irreconcilable lawn issues. At a tense barbecue hosted by Sheriff Tom, Dan called Max just a goat. Emily launched a bowl of coleslaw into his face, ranch dressing dripping from his ears. Rusty bleated approval. Tom took a bite of his burger and said, "Might have earned that." Dan stormed off, threatening lawsuits. The war was on. Flamingos appeared next, hundreds of plastic ones on Dan's lawn, each with a sheriff badge and signs reading "Justice for Max" or "HOA kills joy." Dan countered with 12-foot hedges, which Emily trimmed into obscene shapes, and a stunning likeness of Mac's neighbors snapped selfies, cheering her on. The HOA launched Operation Order, issuing petty fines, but Emily framed them like medals. The goats became TikTok stars, and Rusty led them like a general. Then came the turning point. Ron, guilt-ridden, showed up at Emily's door with a pie and a confession. They'd known Max wasn't wild. He'd seen his collar. But Dan insisted it'd blow over, even after a second shot hit someone, possibly Ricky Malone, the guy who'd sold Dan the unregistered gun. Emily's heart raced. This wasn't just about Max anymore. She found a blood-stained denim scrap and a flip phone near the crime scene. The phone held a video. Dan's crew shooting Max, Ricky filming from the shadows, then a scream as a bullet struck him. Dan's voice hissed, "You shouldn't have been here, Ricky." Emily took it to her father, who called state investigators. Mrs. Lorraine's Ramgate YouTube series, complete with drone footage and sock puppet reenactments, went viral, exposing the HOA's lies. The final blow came when Emily found Rusty caged in Dan's backyard, alongside other stolen pets and a box labeled HOA Evidence Disposal, containing Max's collar fragment and a bullet casing. Sheriff Tom raided Dan's house, uncovering files on illegal fines, surveillance, and Project Jackrabbit, a scheme involving embezzled HOA funds and a bizarre morality booth for spying on neighbors. Dan, wild-eyed in a robe, ranted about HOA immunity as deputies dug through his shed. Emily cornered Greg, who admitted the second shot hit Ricky, who'd been blackmailing Dan over Project Jackrabbit. Whether Ricky survived was unclear, but the evidence was damning. The state took over, and Dan's empire crumbled. The HOA issued a grudging apology, and Desert Pines began to heal. Emily, Rusty by her side, stood taller. Her rage transformed into resolve. Max's death had exposed a rot beneath the manicured lawns, and she'd ripped it out. The neighborhood never forgot. Rusty patrolled, kids wore Max-themed shirts, and Mrs. Lorraine's channel hit 1 million views. Emily hung the flamingo signs as trophies, a reminder that one girl, one ram, and one truth could topple a tyrant. Desert Pines was home again, scarred but unbroken. What do you think about the role of violence and injustice in this story? Should Emily have fought fire with fire, or was there another way? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let us know where you stand.